Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Can you hear me? My name is Foster Hughes. I'm the city manager for the City of New Bern. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to this public input meeting. Just so everyone knows, we are recording this to be broadcast later on our City 3 TV channel. It will also be available on the website at newbernnc.gov, and it is also being broadcast on the City of New Bern Facebook page. So the reason we're here tonight is for a community input and a presentation by Alec Allard with the Old North State League to talk about his proposal to lease Kafer Park for a summer collegiate wooden bat baseball league. So back in late September of 2022, Alec reached out to myself and Kerry Warren, the Director of Parks and Recreation. He wanted to look at expanding his league, and he thought New Bern would be a good place to come. So over the next several months, he would give us a call, or he'd come to New Bern and he'd look at a variety of our facilities. Finally, about 3 months ago, he came to me and said, look, I'm interested in coming here. I'd like to do a presentation to the Board of Aldermen. So we set a date. He made his presentation late July of this year. And you're going to see some of that presentation, and I think that's going to be expanded a little bit tonight. And so at that meeting, our governing board asked for some additional input from the citizens. And so let me go through this PowerPoint that my Public Information Director put together. So a little bit about Kafer Park. So in just a little bit of research, we saw that the ballpark dates back to 1928. In some other information, we saw that evidently the city acquired the Kafer Park property at some point after the Great Fire of 1922. And that information came from the Works Progress Administration Guide that was published in 2013. Also in our research, what I thought was really interesting, and I'm going to read this to you verbatim, this came out of the congressional record dated June 14th, 1929. And I quote, "Stupendous and wonderful pageant was given in the open Kafer Park at 8 p.m. under a blaze of high-powered electric lights. It was witnessed by at least 10,000 people. Nothing of the kind has ever been so successfully staged before in North Carolina, and it's doubted if any more successful affair of its kind by local talent has been given in the country. The pageant portrayed New Bern in historic review." So since really almost 100 years from now, Kafer Park has been rich in tradition. It's been a great place for baseball, and it's also been a great place for community gatherings over the years, drawing a variety of crowds. I'm going to talk about two other things. We released a survey on August 9th, and mainly that has been online, so we have had over 330 participants to take that survey. And if you would like to take it, we've got paper copies back here that you can fill out if you'd like, or you can go on to newbernnc.gov. The link for the survey is there. It's also on our Facebook page, at City of New Bern NC Government Facebook page. It's only about 5 questions, takes a couple of minutes, and we just ask a variety of questions, like would you support the league or not? If you have any questions, what are those questions? And so we provided some of the main things we've seen tonight to Alec to hopefully address. And after he does his presentation, he's going to give you an opportunity to ask any other questions you may have. But the biggest thing we've seen is the question regarding parking. And so let me just get through this. So currently, we have our Public Works Department look at the on-street parking throughout this area within a quarter-mile radius. And we've been able to gather that there are approximately 350 spaces that can be used now. The majority of those are not marked, but they could be marked. And so just to give you an idea of where that is, you can see the yellow line, that is George Street, and you'll see some parking on Queen Street and throughout. So that's all within a quarter-mile radius. There's also some overflow parking near where the splash pad is and in the old outfield of that baseball field out there. That is just on-street parking and a little off-street parking. That does not include anything else that Alec may talk about in just a few minutes. Folks, there was one other thing that we had was park hours. So folks were concerned about how late baseball could be played at Kafer Park. And so by city ordinance, the park hours are dawn to dusk, 7 days a week, with the exception of during ball season, lights have to be out at 10 p.m. So games would not be taking place late at night or anything like that. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Alec Allard with the Old North State League to give his presentation.
Hello everyone, my name is Alec Ard and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak today. My family and myself, we are the founders of the Old North State League, and so we're very fortunate to be here today. We're really looking forward to the opportunity of possibly bringing a college summer baseball team to New Bern. So this is a rendition kind of what we presented at the meeting last month. It's expanded a little bit and I'll go through this, and if anybody has any questions, if you would, just wait till the end, and I would be glad to answer those to the best of my ability. So the Old North State League, as I said, is a college summer wood bat baseball league based entirely out of North Carolina. It's made up of 16 teams from every corner of the state, from Hendersonville to Elizabeth City. Most of our players come from the communities that we're in. I would say 70% of our rosters are made up of guys that live within a 30-mile radius of their ballparks. We do have out-of-state players as well that stay with host families. Typically, those are pitchers. Our season runs from the end of May through the end of July. We always wrap up by July 31st. Here's a map showing where some of our teams are, or all of our teams are. We've started in Central North Carolina in 2018. Our first season of competition was in 2019. Our first expansion was west, and then over the last 2 years we've expanded to the eastern part of the state. The big reason why we crafted the league the way that we have is we're big believers in trying to create community rivalries and shortening transportation for the players in the league. The old mill leagues around North Carolina 75 years ago, there was a lot of these communities around the state that had a wood bat baseball team, a minor league baseball team of some sort, and we wanted to recreate that concept of creating these community rivalries. The next few slides show a few ballparks around the state. Tramway Park is home to the Sanford Spinners. Bogey Ballpark is home to the Sand Hills Bogies in the Pinehurst area. In the top left corner, you'll see J.P. Riddle Stadium. That's home to the Fayetteville Chutes. Below that is Jack Hughes Ballpark, home to the Pineville Porcupines, and where the 2023 Old North State League Championship was played. And in the right corner is Berkeley Mills Park, an old Mill League baseball stadium in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Well, we want to come to New Bern for several reasons. It's an ideal population. It's very similar to where we've been successful in the past. My family personally loves coming into areas that have old ballparks and renovating them. We've done that 5 different times now over the last 5 years. My dad, even before that. It's a baseball-rich community. As I said, we try to get our players from around that area. So it's an area that we can pull a lot of local players and build that community aspect around that team. It fills a geographical hole where we have a team in the southern part of the state in Brunswick County, and then we have a team in Elizabeth City as well. Jacksonville was added a month ago, so it allows us to be able to have 2 teams kind of in the central coastal region that can split that travel between Elizabeth City and Brunswick County. As Mr. Hughes said, we talked for multiple times about different ballparks around the New Bern area, and ultimately we just kept coming back to Kafer Park. And really the big reason for that is because of the historical meaning that the ballpark had to the area. We would love to see it come back to life even more so and bring it back to its heyday. And it's close to downtown. It has a great foundation for us to build upon, and really just the historical aspect is why we're so attracted to the field. This slide is one of our first ballparks that we renovated. The top 2 pictures are when we took it over, and the bottom 3 are after renovations were complete. It was a former Middle League field as well in Ramsford, North Carolina, which is my hometown. This slide is Buggy Ballpark in Pinehurst. This was a facility that the league took last year and built from the ground up. There was a kickball field there before on the campus of Sand Hills Community College. So this was a complete from the ground up construction that we did. It's not our most recent. Our most recent project was a renovation project at Brunswick Community College this year. And one in the near future will be at North Community College. So what we will do, what our plan is, and how we build these teams in these different communities is we will hire a local general manager. That'll be the first thing that we do. After that will be a head coach. And then we'll begin the process of working with the general manager and the head coach to develop a plan to meet with different community leaders and be able to figure out how we can best impact the community beyond just our 2-month college summer season. So we'll work with the Parks and Rec director, we'll work with the county school systems and try to figure out what their initiatives are and figure out how we can help support those. Our goal will be to create a year-round experience at Kafer Park, not just in those that 2-month period. This slide kind of details some estimates of what we would like to do in the first phase. The hope is that the first phase would be completed by the 2024 season. Mainly, as you can see, the biggest expense will be the grandstand that we hope to construct around the backstop. But what we will do is we'll come in, extend the outfield fencing back in center field slightly, and everything from the dugouts in, we will tear down and then rebuild to fit a college roster, and then construct the grandstand around the backstop. In exchange for our contribution into the renovation project at Kafer Park, what we would like to do is sign a 10-year lease to give us some stability that we're going to be here for a long time. For our investment that's estimated between $250,000 and $350,000, we'd like to sign a 10-year lease at $1 a year. And what that would do is it would give us an opportunity to make back our investment over time. But also what it would do is we would work with Parks and Rec and other community groups to be able to give them rights to use the field also inside of our lease. Obviously the bulk of our competition and the bulk of our scheduling is going to be in the summer months. We will do things outside those summer months to try to drive economic revenue to the area. The ECABL will continue to play at Kafer Park, so we will work through all these different schedules to be able to give each community group, the Parks and Rec, and figure out how we can get as many people in the ballpark as we possibly can. The next few slides are some renderings of what we're proposing. Please keep in mind these are renderings. This is not absolutely what will happen. That's an angular built miter cut grandstand. It will be very similar to that. We hope to wrap from dugout to dugout because we hope to be able to fit 1,000 people into the ballpark. There's kind of a layout of what I was just depicting. So that is a angular built bleacher system. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's what we're proposing that we would build. That allows us to maximize the space and be able to fit the most people into the grandstand. Here's a proposed beer patio, a type of beer patio that we would like to construct. And overall, some concluding thoughts on the presentation and on our proposal. So what we're basically asking for is a 10-year lease valued at $25,000, $35,000 a year based off of the investment that we put into the field. And so for reference, Granger Stadium in Kinston is over a $10 million ballpark that's leased for around $60,000 a year. New Bern baseball, we will take over all the utilities. We'll maintain a partnership with the ECABL. We will be beginning games at 6 p.m. to avoid the noise ordinance. And we will continue to work with the city and other local groups to be able to optimize the field and be able to give Parks and Rec the dates that they need to be able to put on events. And then this last slide is kind of some stuff Mr. Hughes went over, but what are ticket prices? We get that asked. Ticket prices are around the Old North State League are $8 to $10 typically. Pretty much every ballpark just does general admission. There's no reserve seating or anything like that. There's one ballpark out in western North Carolina that does, but overall everybody does general admission, and it's $8 to $10 typically. As I said, games will start at 6 p.m. Those are the night games. There'll probably be some day games as well. What type of food will we serve? So that'll kind of depend on once we get on the ground, once we see what we can and can't do in the concession facility. First thoughts are we would probably do what we do with about half the teams in the league, and we bring in food trucks or work with local restaurants and basically buy their food pre-wrapped and then sell it out of the concession stand. We've got a question about how will beer sales work. So New Bern Baseball will apply for a retail permit. We will have to go through all the proper permitting procedures. We will provide security at the ballpark, which is custom around the league. And through the 5 years, nearly 1,200 games, we have never had a beer-related incident. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that it will never, ever happen, but so far it has never happened. And will additional netting be added? So yes, we will be looking to add additional netting to protect cars, patrons, and to protect local businesses and buildings and such. And that's it. So if anybody has any questions, I will absolutely do the best of my ability to answer them. She's got a whiteboard.
I'm just trying to get a feel for how it's set up. I live in the 500 block of Metcalf Street, which I do think will probably end up with overflow parking issues, because a lot of times when we have things on this end, it goes up the street. But okay, where is the concession stand stuff? What corner? Is that facing the street? Is it facing?
The building up in the kind of in the top right in the center of the picture, that's the concession stand.
Where's the police station?
Yep. It's down in the bottom right-hand corner. You can't see it, but that road that's along the red.
Okay, that gives me the orientation. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, the other question, the league that's playing there right now, I know that they have been paying something on a monthly basis for the right to use it. How will it work to allow them to continue to participate? Because I hate the thought of losing the current group that's there.
Yeah, so what I've talked to Doug about is our biggest thing is we have different revenue streams than he does or than other baseball organizations, because one of our biggest revenue streams is outfield advertising, banners on the outfield fence. And so the big thing to drive up the value of the outfield advertising, which is one of our largest revenue streams, is to attract as many eyes to the ballpark to see those outfield advertisements. So what I've talked to Doug about is actually, within reason, we're going to waive the rental fee for their group moving forward. If everything is approved, of course.
Hey, so I'm part of the board for the ECABL. My question is, so right now they play 3 days a week, 2 days through the week and 1 day on the weekend. How is that going to fit in with your guys' schedule? Because you say there's going to be daytime games and then nighttime games. So where does that fit in for the adult amateur league?
Yeah, so every team in the Old North State League plays 20 to 25 home games. So we'll work with his schedule and then schedule our games in accordance. Actually, in a market like this, the days that they already play on, I believe will actually line up pretty good with what we would want to play here. So not every team in every market like optimizes certain days, and some days are better than others in certain areas. So for example, I live in Brunswick County, a coastal tourist area, and my wife is the general manager of that team. Those days that are best there are like your Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, because that's after vacation turnover. This is a more consistent population, so your Friday night games, Saturday games, those are going to be probably our best games. But even beyond that, over a 9-week schedule, I would think to spread out 24, 25 games, we're looking at 2 or 3 days a week as well. I think it's a good thing, the more that's going on at the ballpark, because as I said, it gets more people in the ballpark to see the renovations. It gets more eyes on those advertisements for us, and it just drives up that facility as like a community spot. So, does that answer? Is that good?
All right, good evening. I had a couple of questions, and I'll just say baseball is a declining sport in our African American community. I grew up playing here in all of the leagues. In high school, I had an issue with the percentage of African Americans on the team. College, that wasn't a problem because I was at a historical black university. But as a minor league player with the Braves, it was 20 players other than African American and myself and Milt Thompson. And it was a very uncomfortable situation. But leading into my question, what is the percentage of African American players in this 16-team Old North State organization? Do you have any idea?
To be honest with you, sir, I don't know the percentage, because we don't, when they sign up, we don't ask them racial questions in terms of their race. I can tell you though, with what I said about how we typically recruit very local teams. So the communities that maybe are a little bit more diverse typically have a more diverse roster, and then vice versa.
Gotcha. So with that in mind, my other question would be, and I think you did say you will be collaborating, partnering with New Bern Parks and Recreation. The ideal I had about that, if you guys will be considering possibly providing the annual spring baseball clinic camp targeted for our African American kids, to get that initiative so we can foster some interest back into that sport. Things like that, are you?
Absolutely. We do camps, typically try to do camps 3 or 4 times a year. Some of our teams do camps 5 times a year, but that will absolutely be something that we try to do here.
Okay, thank you.
It pretty much answered my question with your bullet points. I see you retain ownership or the facility for 365 days a year, correct? And as a downtown resident that uses that batting cage several times a week, and our only 2 accessible cages are at Creekside and West Kafer Park, not really local to here, but Creekside is close, but if you are going to have, complete control of the park for 365 days a year, I would like to propose that Fort Totten receive a batting cage.
I think there's definitely ways that we can work around that issue. So one thing that we'll have to do, and it's not a question that I thought I was going to get today, but one thing that we had thought we were going to do was around that exterior fence right now, that's 4 foot tall, around the exterior part of the ballpark that would go down past that back cage. We thought about raising the fence line up because one thing that we've had issues with, and probably everybody in sports entertainment has had issues with, is people cheating the system and trying to watch the game for free, and stand over the fence and look. And this is a small business, so as a small business, those are things that we need to continue to be successful. One thing that we maybe could consider doing, obviously it would be kind of up to the city, but instead of that 6-foot fence going all the way around, we do the 6-foot fence and around the cage. So where that red line is right now, beyond the cage, between the cage and the concession stand, what we put that fence was so that kids or people that were at the ballpark wouldn't go down into those areas, so that because of injuries and players are hanging out, hitting BP, going in the bullpens, we just don't want anybody getting hurt. What we could possibly consider doing with city's approval is keeping that top section of that fence line 4 foot and keeping a gate there so that people can continue to use the cages and not have to come through the actual ballpark itself.
Totally supportive of the league. We're excited.
My question is, do you guys do any community engagement with youth, particularly maybe minorities, or just in general, or are you open to do that?
Yeah, we try to do as much as we can for community engagement and to grow the game of baseball in the youth. I mean, it's my personal passion for this is because I think that personally Major League Baseball has done the exact opposite of grow the game of baseball. And I want the game of baseball to grow around North Carolina. Major League Baseball has cut minor league teams across the country. Kinston's relocating. And all these communities that historically have bad baseball, minor league baseball, or wood bat baseball in their communities, they're losing those. And what they're doing is the kids are losing a hero when they take those teams out. And so, yeah, of course, guys, I'm not going to sit here and say this isn't a business. It is, but there's also a passion behind it because I feel like we have to grow the game of baseball. We've got to give kids heroes to look up to in the community. And I'll be honest with you, I played professional baseball on the independent side for 4 years, and I credit my cousin because my cousin, he played minor league baseball for 4 years also, and when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, I was going out watching his games. And I said at 5 or 6 years old, like, I want to be him one day, I want to be those guys. And I think that's really important, especially nowadays when kids spend all their time, not all their time, but a lot of their time on their phones or playing video games, they're losing their heroes that used to be in their backyards. That's kind of my passion behind it. Does that answer?
Yes, I guess just a little bit more direct. Are you guys open during your downtime to work with, understanding it's a business, children from the minorities, or just in general? Is it like clinics or something like that where you can expose the game of baseball where it's been lost at? I guess that's what my question is.
Absolutely. That will be what the general manager and the head coach, they try to do throughout the course of the whole year.
With your improvement, the money you're going to spend, is there any intent to improve the mural that's on the back wall that was put in years ago?
I haven't thought about it, but I think it would be a really nice thing to do, absolutely.
And the reason I say that is because I think part of the big Satchel Paige and some other players that were here years ago, so that mural was put up, I guess, about 20 years ago.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
So you talk about growing the game and the love of the game. We did have a wooden bat league here before, and my son was born during that time, and he started going to games at that time. And now this Saturday, I'm bringing him off to college to play baseball in college. So this is definitely something that can bring a big influence into our community. And there's a lot of kids that grew up watching that old wooden bat league team. And these kids are now coming of age that they're going to be starting to go into college. So I think it's a great way to get more and more kids to love the game, and whatever race, nationality they are, I think that as long as we can get them inside the stands, it's going to be obvious.
Hi there. Bernard White. I grew up in this neighborhood, grew up in this gym, grew up under Mr. Moore's father. We had baseball clinics, we had football clinics, to make sure we had us the best. We could compete with anybody, any school, or any group of people around. Over a period of years, this has dropped off. If you look at some of the names of the pictures on the wall, so most of the guys that play sports are pros. They come from here. Okay, those people that we kind of looked up to. The thing about it is that it had tripled down a little bit, a lot, and we didn't have enough space for all the kids in the city of New Bern. I knew that because I was the president of the Recreation Advisory Board. So the Southern Little League was really forced out of New Bern to go to Vansburg and play. Most people don't know that. And we still had all the other areas packed with kids. Then we have football, Little League football. We've always had that. We would practice at Kafer Park. We had 2 teams on the same, under the same organization. Can practice in that area. If you had a team and I had a team and we weren't under the same organization, then we couldn't be on the same field. That's basic right now everywhere. So I know you said during the winter months you may not, you'd be open. How could we arrange it? Because the last 4 years, I think Mr. Lewis was the one that had his team out there by Kafer Park. Pickett had a team over at Stanley White. And we was all scattered all over the town. How are we going to be able to filter our kids back in this so they can participate and play the sports that they would like to play?
I think that's an opportunity for us to work with Parks and Rec and get it back there. Make the ballpark an inviting place and try to get Parks and Rec, use our leverage, try to get Parks and Rec to come back and host stuff there. Obviously, those are things that are kind of out of my control, but it's things that I can push and try to do.
Okay, I guess I'll let it go as that. But other than that, it's all about the kids. I realize I played with men too. And I stopped playing for 5 years and came back and played. I was one of the top players. And the thing that got me, that we were playing a game, and one of the players had a kid running around out there, asked his wife to tell his kid to sit down. And I'm playing sports, and I'm saying, we grown people, and we're playing. And the kids sitting out watching. We should be watching them play.
That's right.
Okay, so I just wanted everybody to know that I'm still for the kids. I wear their pain. I'm for them 100%.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Sampson. And I think it's a great idea bringing a field, to New Bern and Kafer Park. But I want to make sure that, I know you said it's going to cost about $8 to $10 for the entrance fee, but my main concern is we have a lot of underserved kids around in our neighborhood. Are you all planning on giving out some scholarships or grants? Because I know you're saying you're working with the Parks and Rec, so you work with them. I know they have grants and stuff, so are you going to take that into consideration?
Absolutely. Are you talking about being able to get kids into the ballpark to watch the games and whatnot?
Yes.
So typically, and every team's a little bit different depending on who owns the team. Across the league of the 16 teams, there's about 8 different ownership groups. So a lot of I think from like most teams, 5 to 10-year-olds are free for kids to come in anyways. And then in terms of camps, yeah, we do work with local community groups and nonprofits to raise money to give scholarships to kids that maybe can't afford to come to camp.
And I have another question. Are you all planning on having any other events in the park besides just baseball?
Yeah, we want to host all kinds of events there when the 3 days are open, whether that be concerts or kickball tournaments for kids or youth baseball events. I know it's a baseball event, but a youth baseball event, bringing in teams and teams from the area to the ballpark and stuff. One thing that we've done in other areas is a firefighters versus police department game. So different stuff like that. We'll try to do as many community-centric things at the ballpark as we possibly can in a 365-day year.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. those of you that don't know me, I'm Gary Smith, and I was the head baseball coach at New Bern High School for 17 years. Also coached the American Legion team for 10 years during that time period. Currently, I'm the head baseball coach at Lenore Community College in Kinston. I used to have a voice in this town regarding baseball issues. I don't know if I still do, we'll see. Now, Mr. Hughes, Alec, kind of spoke to the history of baseball in this town. If you ask a lot of people in this town, they would tell you it's still a football place, based on the success the high school team has had. But the history here in baseball is very rich. I don't go back as far as the Great Fire. It probably looks like I do, but I'm not quite that old. But since we've been here 25 years, we have seen, even before we got here, state championship team in 1966, the inception of Babe Ruth baseball, the inception of Cal Ripken baseball that currently exists, the number of tons of players that have left New Bern and gone on to play in college, players that have left, Mr. Moore, Adam Warren, who've gone on to play pro ball, and there are others. But many of those things have fallen by the wayside. The American Legion team is no longer intact. Babe Ruth baseball, I don't even know. You don't hear people talking about playing Babe Ruth baseball anymore. So after kids are about 12 years old, there's really nothing in this town for the baseball enthusiasts. And I can speak firsthand about Alec, the Old North State League, because the Kinston team played at Lenore Community College, where I was responsible for maintaining the field and for game administration. It was kind of almost a last minute thing that they came to Kinston. So I was a little skeptical as how it was all going to go. I can tell you that Alec, the coaching staff in Kinston, the players, the opponents, first class. It was all done first class. The respect they had for our facility, for me, my coaching staff, the enthusiasm they brought to the ballpark, I see that as something that would fly very well here. This is not a paid advertisement by any means. However, I think it's been alluded the economic boost it would bring, and things like players having to buy food, put gas in their car while they're here. Those are pretty obvious, but it also has more impact in that food trucks, that's how they serve the food at our place. Alec would need scorekeepers and scoreboard operators and ticket takers. We employed high school kids to do those things. So, there are jobs available. The amount of advertising that was done on our field, we've already discussed, it's going to be up there year round. So not only does it help the Kinston Wingman, it's going to help Lenore Community College. The renovations that are going to be done. I can't say enough good things about what his organization is bringing into communities. And over the 25 years we've been here, my wife and I many times have discussed how New Bern allows dollars to trickle out of here to go to other communities. Morehead City, Jacksonville, Kinston, whether it be restaurants or entertainment. You have an opportunity to keep those dollars here in town and put a product on the field the community can be proud of. I think that from an administrative, over your head, city administration, I think when they make decisions, they've got to look at what is best for the citizens of the community before they make a decision. Again, if I'm voting yes. This is going to be a good thing for the community. Very good. Very nice.
Well, when she was walking up to him to give the mic to him, I said, I'm next, but I don't know. That man spoke about some stuff. But I'm gonna speak about what I know. I grew up next door, the house next door here, Smith Street, run between. They used to have a semi-pro baseball team, New Bern Giants. I used to sit on the wall and watch the different teams come in from out of town. And not only that, I played football over there. I played midget baseball over there. And also I watched the championship team, JT Bubble Warriors. They played over there. I was coached by Ms. White, Ms. Moore in basketball. And I learned a lot of things. And when I grew up, I started coaching, doing the same thing. And I hear you saying baseball is declining, but I can say I was a part of 7-8, 7-9. We was all conference. Every team was all conference in the school. Every sport. Betty, she was on a softball team. But my question is this. Well, let me hit up with Barbara. I think what she was asking is what I used to do with my teams at the recreation center. I'll contact East Carolina University or Carolina or somebody like that, and I'll ask for certain number of tickets for all my team players. So we took the boys and girls free to watch the game, and I think that's what you're saying. Not just clinics, but it may be some kids or their parents that can't afford at all. So I think what you're saying, can you get them in without a fee? That's what you're saying. That's part of it right there. My last thing is this, because it is a historic park, and it was a minority semi, I'd like for you to get with a group of those guys, like Mr. White, Mr. Piggott, Pender, get them together. I know you keep saying the Park and Rec. I know you got to go through them and the City of New Bern, but also I think you need to get with a group of guys, give some ideas of the characteristics of that park, what it means, what it stands for, because I kept hearing you say downtown, downtown, but we're part of downtown and uptown, so I don't want the community to feel like they're going to be left out, because the money is going to come from both ways, so I think that's very important to me.
Sir, I can assure you that everybody on my side will do exactly what you just said. We will be having meetings with everybody involved, from downtown and uptown, on how we can make that a ballpark for everybody to enjoy.
I'm a coach's daughter. My dad played both at Kafer Park, but he also played in the minor leagues behind what is now the George Street Recreation Center. They played 2 games a night in the summer. You went to all the games every night, regardless of who was playing. He played for the Chicago Cubs eventually, and he coached for 38 years. So I know a little bit about baseball. But the one thing that it always was in New Bern is it was family friendly. There wasn't any alcohol involved. And I know that you're in it to make money, but like you, I live at the other end of Metcalf Street. So even though a lot of the things that take place in the downtown area are not necessarily on my block, whether it's overflow parking or whatever, we do get the results from the people that are intoxicated, and you don't want that. So I don't know if that's something that you could even possibly consider, is not having alcohol there and making it more family friendly. So that's one thing that I would ask you to consider. The other thing is I noticed you were going to do concerts and events. Didn't you say you were looking at getting like 1,000 people into Kafer Park? Would that be the same for concerts, or would it be larger groups than that?
So for your first question about beer sales, I've heard that question a lot whenever I go to speak at city council meetings and whatnot. One thing that we always do is we try to keep it confined to a certain area to keep it under wraps. We also typically create some type of system where we can limit the consumption, whether that be a few drinks or whatnot. One thing that we've seen, and I understand your concern, 100%. One thing that we've seen is that is a way to get some families into the ballpark. And some families do just want to go have a casual drink, and that's normally what it is. In regards to, what was your follow-up question? What was your other question?
It had to do with concerts,
Okay.
because the same thing, they often have concerts, whether it's at Tryon Palace or Union Point. And so, again, it's not so much the venue that they're at, it's after they leave. We frequently have problems in an adjacent parking lot where people are intoxicated, they come there and then they party, they fight, and, so it's not taking place at potentially someplace like yours, but because of those circumstances, it still happens elsewhere.
Right. So in regards to the number of people, yeah, 1,000 people. Whatever we can, for fire codes and whatnot, whatever we can have in there is the max of what we'll have for any event, regardless if it's baseball or concerts. We would still institute those same types of policies that we would have for baseball games in terms of limiting consumption. Now, I know the argument to that is what about before they get there and whatnot. So the best thing that we can do is when we have security out there at the ballpark is when they notice problems, they escort them out before they even get to the end of the game to limit their consumption inside of the ballpark. I hope that answers, that's the best answer that I can give you, and I hope that answers it.
I have kind of a little bit of a follow-up on that. I spend a lot of time in New Hanover County and Brunswick County, and several of the cities there, they have a no re-entry policy because of alcohol. So once you enter, you can't come back in if you leave without buying another ticket. And that's primarily because of the alcohol issue.
Yeah, that's something that we've never done before, but something that we should consider because we haven't had any issues yet, but that doesn't mean that there won't be an issue in the future. And that would be something that we should consider for sure.
Well, they do concerts and sporting events, but no matter what, you come in, you don't go back out. And the same thing, they make you only carry like a clear plastic bag of a certain size, so that it just keeps everything really simple.
Right. Thank you for that.
Just verifying again, we're not getting a team, we're getting a facility.
No, a team will be coming here.
We're going to have a team.
If it's approved, yeah.
Oh, that'd be nice. The other thing is, living in the historic district, we have to go through a whole process to be sure what we do to the outside looks appropriate. So I'm wondering about that fence. How high is that fence going to be? And what is that fence going to be made out of? And does it have to go to the Historic Preservation Commission to get approved? And could it be made to look like 1935 or something when it was built? So can you maintain the historic atmosphere in your construction?
I don't know if I'm going to give you the answer that you want, because I don't know the answer to the question. But what I will say is we will try to keep the character of the ballpark there. That's what attracted us to the ballpark. So we don't want to come in and change that character by any means necessary. Thank you for the question.
Going to be watching.
There is also a very, very sacred cemetery, like right there on both sides of the street. You don't want people overflowing into that.
We
desecrating tombstones and stuff.
Right.
That's a big deal.
One thing that we have talked about the netting system. We've talked about extending the nets down the lines further than they are now, just to keep foul balls from going over there and keeping people from out of the cemetery.
And I'm usually a naysayer in this town.
That's true.
My name's Dick Wagner, and I've been in this town since 1961. I came here in the Marine Corps. My two sons were raised up here. The Babe Ruth League was strong. It was really strong. It's gone downhill. I mean, now it's all church league mostly, and nothing wrong with that because the young people have got to get started somewhere. But that Babe Ruth League, a lot of people played that Babe Ruth League. And Mr. Smith, he was right here with us at that time. We loved New Bern. But you can see New Bern has got different ideas now. If you see a store closed up, a bar opens up. If a bar doesn't go in it, you got a tobacco shop. You got to remember where you go. You only see one car there at a time. Something's going on with it. I don't know what it is. But we need something like this baseball team coming back to New Bern. Doug Amerson is very strong. The gentleman sitting over here, he's 66 years old and still playing baseball. They got the senior leagues and so forth, that's like. But we need something here now like you're trying to do. And I know people want to drink beer when they go to the ballpark and so forth like that. You go off and you go to a hockey game or something, you know, beer's $9 like a serving and stuff like that. But if you could get away from alcohol from that, you'd be doing good. But you got to make money some way. But I think it'll be nice for that team to be formed in this city because there's a lot of history in that park. When the Coastal Plain League played, a lot of people from this area and people came in this area to play there. So good luck with the Board of Aldermen.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Praise the Lord. My name is Ethel Sampson. I'm an ordained minister. And I don't have any, I believe in unity. And I can go back 84 years, then I was 6 years old in a primal grade. And say, Carolina, Carolina, have a blessing, attend her, while we live, we will cherish, protect and defend her. Hoorah, hoorah, the old North stay forever. Hoorah, hoorah, the good old North stage. Now I'm gonna tell you this right here. People don't say the past, don't live in the past. But if it wasn't for a past, it wouldn't be a present. And if it wasn't for a present, it wouldn't be no future. But I was just thinking of in the old days, when I was coming up, for some reason or another, they always said that Kafer Park was a black people's park. That's what you always said. And I remember in the New Bern Giants, but I saw it there on the paper where it said something about New Bern Giants up there on the screen. But once upon a time, they used to call me the queen of the New Bern Giants because I could sell a whole lot of tickets. And we had a real good time. We had an uncle-in-law, they named him Will. Some of these older people might know him. They call him, his name was William Barrett, but they call him Will Stip, because he could step in a base in a minute. But let me tell you, I remember the time when the Babe Ruth wouldn't have anything to do with the black kids. But later on they did. But the children used to go over in Sunnyside, and the white boys and the black boys had a good time together. We had a very, very good time. And I remember Satchel Paige came here, and also those Globetrotters, the other people came here. And we had a very good time. But what I want to know, how do we fit in? Because I have one of these papers, I already filled mine out. Okay? So I was saying, how do the blacks fit in? Because you see, I'm listening to what you said, but when you y'all can really dominate the parliament, it's true, but I want us to have a part in it too.
Absolutely. So, as I said earlier, my priority in what I do beyond New Bern or beyond any town is grow the game of baseball with the youth, including the African American youth. I believe that Major League Baseball has not done enough to grow the game of the African American community. I think they've done probably the opposite. And so from my position and the little power that I have, that's what I want to do. I want to work with community organizers to be able to grow the game. And that's my commitment, that my group will work with everybody to try to grow the game in the youth, African American community and in the Caucasian community.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to jump on what was just said, actually. So I've been coaching youth for about 20 years in this area. I've raised my 4 kids. One of them's 25, the youngest is 15. I've been coaching baseball. But about 5 or 6 years ago, we actually used to run a program at Kafer Park that was through the police station. That was free for everybody to come in. We got donations of bats and gloves, and we ran that. So it was open to anyone, but it was done right there specifically to address the minority community in that area. And it was a great program. It just slowly faded away. People just stopped showing up, but it wasn't part of a bigger thing is what it was. It was every Saturday morning we would just get out there. And it was a great thing, and we got a lot of kids involved, and actually one of the players has actually been playing for me for a couple of years. Now, he had never picked up a ball in his life, and now he's actually playing on one of my travel baseball teams that I have. So it's definitely going to be a big part of what goes on with this team, because specifically the location, but in the bigger picture, baseball is a sport that needs to be addressed on a bigger scale, so it's you know, when you get up to the majors, there's a lot bigger mix and diversity, and it's not addressed as much in the Babe Ruth League and the Cal Ripken leagues that are around here. So I think that that's a perfect way to do that.
Alec, who's going to maintain that field? Current staff? Parks and Rec guys?
We haven't decided yet on that. I would kind of prefer that our staff does, if the parks will let us, but it might be you.
Stop it.
Do we have a name for our team?
Yeah, I was going to ask that too.
Not yet, so what we'll do is we'll do a name the team contest. If everything is approved, and then work with the city and other groups to kind of promote that on social media, and then we'll take some submissions and then let everybody vote on it.
My last comment would be, Stanley White was my father, and I can't separate Stanley White from Kafer Park. June 20th, 1971, on a Father's Day, while preparing for a game, he was accidentally deceased by electricity. His blood is on that field at that park. And I take the challenge to do my part as well as you to extend his legacy along with promoting baseball, the game of baseball. Because though baseball is a sport, I see it as a vehicle that build character and develop youth and young people. It was how my life was framed and developed. So I'm in this, and I think it's a good thing, and we support you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
I'd like to respond to your statement there that his blood is on the field, his eyes are on the wall. He's on the mural there. That was painted, that's Stanley White looking over the whole situation there. And you got Bookers on there too. You got several people that played with the Giants painted on that wall. I'm Doug Amerson. I'm the commissioner of the ECABL that we're currently playing there right now. We came in 5 years ago and took over the field, and we made a few improvements to it. this whole aspect here, the ideas that he's put up on the presentation was some that we presented to the Board of Aldermen 5 years ago, same things, except for the beer garden. We're almost exactly on the same page there. Now, we would love to see this park built up like that. And we're going to be in a partnership, and some of the things that you have said that you had concerned about, our league is going to take over and do some things. We're going to help them out with community stuff and things like that. So it's not just their word, it is also our work and the way we give back to the community for allowing us to be there in the first place. But yeah, Stanley White, he's very much a part of that park because his eyes are painted right there on that wall.
Amen.
Very nice. Very nice.
Sir, does your group currently do anything for the youth?
At the moment, we are in discussions with making something like that happen. I have promised Carrie that we would start doing something like that. And so our board is having discussions on what we can do. We have not done anything yet, except we took over 2 people here that come to the ballpark all the time, and we just kind of have wrapped them up in things, but not a whole group yet. But we are working on it.
Don't let Doug convince you. He has. So I have my one son. He actually played with you, my dogs, a couple of years ago.
Who is it?
Ian Trent. He was actually a lacrosse player.
Okay.
So, you guys would start. But Doug and the guys are the feeder to where he is, and he is going to be playing for Lenore this coming fall.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
So the league has supported the youth. Without that league, Ian would not be where he's going today. So don't let Doug think that he has not. 2 kids have came out of that league going to play college ball.
That's awesome.
So it's all about Doug, for sure.
Amen.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. It was an awesome opportunity for me to help maybe clear some air and answer some questions. So looking forward to hopefully getting this thing across the finish line and bringing baseball here next time.